Ethan Cole was an ordinary man living a quiet life on the edge of New London, Earth's largest repair hub. He fixed machines that others threw away, and his small workshop always smelled of metal and oil. He had no family, no friends who stayed for long, and no dreams left. Until that night when a message from the stars arrived. The message came through his old comm device, flickering blue light across his desk. It wasn't a normal call or data pulse. It was encrypted in alien symbols he had never seen. A mechanical voice translated after a few seconds. To Ethan Cole of Earth, you are the legal heir of Valorian House Number 7. Assets, vaults, and title included, please confirm arrival within 10 cycles. Ethan stared at the words, thinking it was a joke. No human had ever been contacted directly by the Valorians, an ancient and powerful alien race who rarely spoke to Earth. He laughed softly, but his laugh faded when the last line appeared. Now I am all yours. He didn't sleep that night. The phrase echoed in his head. Who could have written it? Why him? He had no connection to aliens, no relatives in space, but deep inside, curiosity began to burn stronger than fear. The next morning, he took the message to the local port office. The officers scanned it, and their faces turned pale. This is authentic, one of them whispered. You've been summoned by the Valorian Council. Within an hour, officials guided him toward a small shuttle bound for the Galactic Gate. They told him he would meet an envoy at the other side, when the ship left Earth's orbit. Ethan looked through the window at the blue planet shrinking behind him. A strange feeling filled his chest, like his old life was ending without warning. The journey through the gate lasted only minutes, but felt like hours. Bright light surrounded him, then everything went black. When he woke up, he saw a world unlike any he had imagined. The sky of Valorian shimmered with colors beyond the human spectrum. Towers of crystal rose into clouds, and silver rivers flowed with energy instead of water. Waiting for him on the landing platform was a tall alien with skin like glass and eyes that glowed gold. Welcome, Heir Ethan Cole, the alien said with a deep bow. Ethan followed him into a long, floating carriage that hummed softly as it moved through the air. They passed massive gardens filled with glowing plants and creatures that floated gently above the ground. Everything looked peaceful yet too perfect. Like the calm before a storm, they reached the Valorian Palace, a structure made of living crystal that pulsed with light. Inside, dozens of alien servants bowed as he entered. Each one looked at him with curiosity and disbelief, whispering words he couldn't understand. At the end of the long hall stood a large figure dressed in white robes, a Valorian lawkeeper. The lawkeeper's voice echoed, according to the last testament of Lord Vareth Valorian, the inheritance of his estate, technology, and consort are to pass to Ethan Cole of Earth. Ethan blinked. Consort? He asked quietly. The lawkeeper raised a hand, and a door opened behind him. From the glowing doorway stepped a young alien woman. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes deep violet, and her hair floated like mist. She walked gracefully, her gaze fixed on Ethan. I am Lyra, she said softly, and I am yours. Ethan froze, thinking he misunderstood. Wait, what do you mean by that? The lawyer responded calmly. Under Valorian bond law, when a noble dies without an heir of blood, his bonded partner is transferred to the chosen successor. Shock spread through him. That can't be right, he said. I don't even know him. Or her. But Lyra stepped closer, eyes shimmering with sorrow. My father chose you, she whispered. He said only a human heart could keep me safe. Before he could reply, the ground beneath them vibrated faintly. The light across the hall flickered, and distant alarms echoed for a moment. The lawkeeper dismissed everyone quickly, pretending nothing was wrong, but Ethan noticed fear in his eyes. Something was not right in this palace that night. Ethan was given a large room with floating walls that shifted colors with his mood. He sat on the edge of the soft bed, staring at the message again. Now I am all yours. He looked outside the window where the 2 moons of Valorian hung over the crystal fields. Somewhere out there he heard a soft melody, like someone crying through music. Suddenly his door opened. Lyra stood there barefoot and silent. Her eyes were wet with tears, she said in a trembling voice. They will come for you soon, Ethan Cole. You inherited more than a fortune. You inherited a war. Ethan rose slowly, his heart pounding. Who will come for me? He asked. Lyra shook her head. I don't know who they are now, but they killed my father to get what you now own, and they won't stop until you're gone too. Lightning flashed outside. Casting long shadows on the walls, Ethan looked around the room. There were no weapons, No guards, only strange machines he didn't understand. He realized that his life had changed forever, and he was standing inside a palace full of secrets that weren't his to keep. As the storm outside grew louder, Lyra placed a small silver pendant in his hand. "This belonged to my father," she whispered. "It will show you the truth when the time comes." Her hand lingered on his for a moment, and then she left as silently as she had come. Ethan stared at the pendant, feeling a pulse of energy from it. The words from the message repeated again in his mind. "Now I am all yours." He didn't know whether it was a gift, a curse, or a warning. But deep inside he felt that whatever this inheritance was, it was just beginning to unfold outside the palace. A pair of red eyes watched from the dark, their owner whispering into a communicator. "The human has arrived, begin the hunt," and so, Ethan's journey into the mystery of Valorian began, where love, danger, and secrets from two worlds would soon collide. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The storm outside the Valorian palace had passed, but inside his chest the thunder still rolled. The pendant Lyra had given him pulsed with faint blue light, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. As if it had a heartbeat of its own, he kept staring at it, wondering why an alien girl he just met would risk giving him something so personal. At sunrise, a servant entered his room, a tall figure with dark metallic skin and 4 bright eyes. "The council waits for you," he said in a deep voice. Ethan followed, walking through shining halls that seemed alive. Every step he took echoed softly, and strange whispers floated through the air. He couldn't tell if the palace was whispering, or the people around him. In the great hall, Lyra stood beside the lawkeeper, dressed in silver robes that shimmered like morning frost. Her hair moved gently as if touched by invisible wind. When she saw Ethan, her expression softened. "You came," she said quietly. The lawkeeper lifted a crystal scroll. "According to the last wish of Lord Vareth Valorian, you, Ethan Cole of Earth, shall bind with Lyra Valorian through the union of stars." Ethan blinked. "Bind? You mean married?" The lawkeeper nodded calmly. "Your minds will share thought, emotion, and fate. This is Valorian tradition. It cannot be undone." Lyra looked down, her hands trembling slightly. Ethan saw sadness in her eyes, but also something else, fear. The room was silent, and then he spoke. "I didn't ask for this. I don't even understand your customs," the lawkeeper replied, "and yet, the inheritance is already sealed. Refuse it, and you will lose all protection under Valorian law." Ethan sighed, feeling trapped, but he couldn't walk away. Something deep inside told him there was more to this than wealth or law. He turned to Lyra and said gently, "If this helps you stay safe, then I'll stand by your side." The ceremony began immediately. They stood on a glowing platform while the air filled with swirling energy. Blue lights formed symbols above their heads the moment their hands touched. Ethan felt a strange warmth rush through his body. He saw flashes of Lyra's memories, her home before it burned, her father smiling the night she cried under falling stars. It was as if their hearts spoke the same language for 1 second. When it ended, Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. "I can feel you," she whispered. "Your thoughts, your pain." Ethan nodded slowly. "Guess that makes us official," he said with a small smile. She smiled faintly too, but behind that smile was something fragile, like glass about to crack. Later that day, they walked together in the crystal gardens. The air smelled of sweet energy, and glowing flowers turned toward Lyra as she passed. "They recognize my bond," she explained softly. "The palace responds to life energy," Ethan chuckled. "On Earth, our plants just need sunlight and water." Lyra tilted her head. "You humans always make everything sound simple." Their calm moment ended when a sudden noise echoed nearby. 3 alien guards appeared from behind a statue. Their armor gleamed black and red. The symbol of the rival house burned on their chest. One of them hissed. "So it's true, the human has taken the Valorian bloodline." Ethan stepped in front of Lyra. "You got a problem with that?" The tallest guard sneered. "You are not worthy of her or the title, human. Leave before you die like the last heir." Before Ethan could move, the guards raised energy blades. Lyra's eyes flared bright violet, and waves of force blasted outward. The ground cracked beneath their feet as invisible power threw the guards backward. Her voice became sharp like thunder. "You will not touch him." The guards stumbled up, terrified, and vanished into the shadows. When silence returned, Lyra's energy faded. She looked weak, almost fainting. Ethan caught her before she fell. Hey, easy. You're burning yourself out, she whispered. They will keep coming. My father's enemies never stop. Ethan guided her to a bench near the glowing pond. The reflection of two moons shimmered across the water. You saved me, he said softly. She shook her head. No, I saved what my father left behind. You were never meant to be here, Ethan Cole, but now your life is tied to mine. He touched the pendant still glowing at his chest. You said this would show me the truth when? Lyra's voice became distant. When your heart is tested, and when my world finally chooses yours. Ethan stared at her, confused and amazed at the same time. She wasn't like any being he'd met before, half mystery, half sorrow. The way she looked at him made him forget she was alien at all. As the night fell again, Lyra showed him the tower where her father once worked. He believed humans had something no other race could create, she said. He called it soul energy, the power to feel deeply, to care, even when the universe turns cold. She smiled sadly. That's why he chose you, Ethan, not because of your blood, but because of your heart. Before Ethan could answer, the palace lights dimmed suddenly. A deep hum spread through the halls, warning of intrusion. Distant explosions shook the ground, and alarms screamed across the sky. Lyra turned pale. They found us, she whispered. Ethan grabbed her hand. Then we run. They dashed through the corridors as drones swarmed outside the windows. Red lights scanning the palace, Ethan pulled her into an old maintenance shaft, the kind he used to fix on Earth. He sealed the door and looked at her. Who are these people? She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. They are the ones who killed my father, and now they want the power inside you. Ethan stared at her in shock. Inside me? I'm just a mechanic. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly again. Not anymore. The moment we bonded, a part of my energy merged with you. You are now the living key to Valorian's greatest secret. The corridor shook again as heavy footsteps approached. Ethan gripped the pendant tightly, feeling its warmth spread through his chest. Lyra looked into his eyes. Whatever happens, don't let them take you, Ethan. The sound of metal doors breaking filled the air. Drones cut through walls with beams of red fire. Ethan held her hand tighter. Looks like this marriage got interesting fast, he said with a nervous smile. Lyra smiled faintly back. For humans, you never fear the impossible. Outside, the sky burned red, and the hunt for the new heir of Valorian had just begun. The corridors of the Valorian palace shook as fire echoed from above. Ethan ran beside Lyra through twisting halls lit by pulsing red lights. The alarm screamed in alien tones, warning of intrusion. The entire palace seemed alive, walls shifting, floors glowing, and strange symbols flashing across the ceilings like panic signals. Who are they? Ethan shouted over the noise. Lyra's voice trembled. They're called the Vorn Dominion. They want my father's energy source. The one he hid before he died. Ethan's heart pounded. And they think I have it? Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing faintly. Yes, because of the bond. You now carry what they fear most. A human heart connected to Valorian power. They reached a metal hatch leading to an underground tunnel. Ethan used his mechanical instincts and pulled the handle. Sparks flew. This thing's locked, he said. Lyra touched the hatch. Her energy flowed through it, and the door opened with a hum. Go quickly, she urged. The tunnel was long and dark, lined with pipes carrying glowing energy. Ethan could hear distant explosions above. He turned to Lyra. You said your father hid something powerful. What is it exactly? She hesitated. It's called the core of emotion, a device that feeds on feelings. It was supposed to bring peace, but others wanted to turn it into a weapon. Ethan stopped. Wait, feeds on feelings? You mean human emotion can power it? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, and only humans have emotions strong enough to awaken it fully. Ethan rubbed his forehead. So I'm basically a walking battery to them? She gave a faint smile. No, you're the only one who can keep it stable. They can't use it without you. The tunnel led to a vast underground chamber filled with ancient machines. Glowing symbols floated in the air. It looked like a forgotten laboratory. Lyra moved to a console and began pressing symbols. Ethan watched, feeling both amazed and lost. This is where my father worked before the council turned against him, she whispered. He believed humans could restore balance to the galaxy. Ethan frowned. Then why did he die? Lyra's eyes dimmed. Because he trusted the wrong people. Before Ethan could ask more, the sound of footsteps echoed through the tunnel behind them. He turned. Shadows were moving fast. Armored figures with glowing red eyes. "They found us!" Ethan shouted. Lyra raised her hands, her energy forming a shield. But the impact of the first blast threw her backward. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. "Lyra, stay with me." He saw one of the machines beside him, an old defense turret still connected to a control pad. "I can fix this," he said quickly. He ripped open the panel, wires sparking under his hands. His mind focused like never before. Lyra watched as his human instinct kicked in. "You're repairing alien tech?" she whispered. "I repair everything," Ethan replied. The turret hummed to life just as the intruders entered the chamber. Energy bolts filled the air, lighting up the walls. Ethan ducked behind a console. "How many of them?" he shouted. "Too many," Lyra replied weakly. "They won't stop until you're captured," Ethan looked at her. "Then we give them a reason to stop." He adjusted the turret's aim, twisting its joint to face the entrance. "Let's show them what human hands can do." The turret roared, sending waves of plasma toward the attackers. The whole chamber glowed blue with light and dust. When the firing stopped, silence returned, smoke filled the air, and the ground trembled again as another explosion shook the tunnels. "That won't stop them for long," Lyra said. Ethan helped her stand. "Then let's find a way out before they recover." They moved deeper into the tunnels, where a massive crystal door stood ahead, glowing with faint blue light. "This leads to the heart vault," Lyra said quietly. "It's where the core of emotion sleeps." The door had no visible lock, only a circular panel with hand symbols. Ethan looked at it. "So how do we open it?" Lyra placed her hand on one side. "It needs both of us," she whispered. Ethan placed his hand on the other side. The symbols flared and the air grew heavy with energy. The door opened slowly, revealing a large chamber filled with floating light spheres. At the center hovered a glowing heart-shaped crystal, alive and beating softly. Ethan felt its pulse match his heartbeat. "It's beautiful," he said. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low. "This is what my father died to protect. It connects all living minds. It can heal worlds or destroy them." She turned to him. "You feel it because it recognizes you." Ethan stared at the glowing heart. "You mean it's alive?" Lyra nodded. "In a way, yes, it responds to love, fear, hope, emotion." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess I finally found a machine I understand." But their moment ended when a voice echoed through the chamber, cold and sharp. How touching, from the shadows. A tall alien stepped forward, dressed in dark armor, his eyes burning red. "You have something that belongs to me." Lyra froze. "Rian," she whispered. Ethan looked at her. "You know him?" She nodded, her voice shaking. "My cousin," Rian smirked. "You think an Earthling deserves Valorian power? You are both fools." He raised his weapon, and energy crackled around him. "Hand over the human. And I may let you live." Ethan stepped in front of Lyra. "Not happening." Rian's eyes narrowed. "Then you'll die like the rest of your kind." Before he could strike, the core pulsed violently, reacting to Ethan's defiance. The chamber filled with light, and Ryan was thrown backward. The glowing heart blazed with color, its voice echoing softly in their minds. "The bond is true. Protect the balance." Ethan gasped, feeling energy surge through his veins. Lyra stared in awe. "It's responding to you, Ethan. It's choosing you," Rian growled, vanishing into the smoke, his voice fading. "This isn't over, cousin. The galaxy will know who you really are." Ethan turned to Lyra, breathing hard. "I don't even know who I am anymore." She touched his hand gently. "You're the one the core has chosen, Ethan Cole. And that means everything is about to change." Outside the vault, the war drums of the Vorn Dominion echoed across the stars, and far above the palace, enemy ships began to descend through the clouds. The hidden enemies were no longer hiding. They were coming for the human who now carried the power of two worlds. The chamber still glowed faintly after the explosion of light. Dust drifted through the air, and the massive heart-shaped core pulsed softly as if breathing. Ethan stood in silence, his hand still glowing with the same blue energy that had burst from the crystal moments before. Lyra slowly approached him, her voice trembling. "Ethan, the core accepted you. Do you understand what that means?" He shook his head, still dazed. "I don't understand any of this. I'm a mechanic, not some chosen hero." She looked at him seriously. "It means you can awaken what no Valorian ever could. My father believed only humans could complete the core." Ethan glanced around the chamber. The walls were covered in ancient carvings, Holographic scenes showing stars, battles, and alien faces. He walked closer to one of the glowing panels and brushed his hand across it. The carvings came alive, projecting shimmering visions into the air. He saw an image of a Valorian leader, Lyra's father, standing beside what looked like a human in old space armor. The two shook hands while a great energy crystal hovered between them. Lyra whispered, "That was centuries ago." My father formed an alliance with early humans. They built the core together. Ethan turned toward her. Together? But Earth barely remembers any of this. Lyra nodded. Because the Council erased the truth? They feared what would happen if humanity remembered their strength. He stared at her, trying to process everything. So humans and Valorians once worked together and now they hide it? Lyra nodded again. Yes, my father wanted to restore that bond. But others wanted control. Ethan looked down at his glowing hands. And now that power is in me, he muttered. Lyra stepped closer. You are the bridge between our worlds, she said softly. That's why my father chose you. He saw your compassion, your courage. Even from afar, Ethan frowned. He saw me? How? Lyra hesitated. He watched Earth for many years. He studied humans who fixed what others threw away. He believed repairers like you had the same heart needed to fix a broken galaxy. For the first time, Ethan didn't know what to say. He looked away, hiding the emotion in his eyes. Fixing machines is easy, he said. Fixing people, that's harder. Lyra gave a sad smile. Then perhaps that's why he trusted you more than his own blood. The room fell quiet, but outside faint rumbling shook the ground. Rian's forces were still out there. Ethan turned toward the main gate. They'll come back, he said. And we need a plan. Lyra nodded. The palace has more than walls and guards. There's something else here, a hidden chamber my father never showed anyone. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You think it could help us? Yes, she said firmly. But it can only be opened with the heir's key. Your pendant. They left the vault and climbed through narrow tunnels that led to a forgotten wing of the palace. Dust covered everything, and strange whispers filled the air like distant voices. Ethan held the glowing pendant forward, and the walls responded with faint hums. Finally, they reached a sealed arch made of dark crystal. Lyra placed her hand on it. This is it, she said softly. The Chamber of Secrets. Ethan placed the pendant into a small round slot. The crystal cracked with light and the door slowly opened. Inside, the air shimmered with silver dust. Hundreds of floating memory orbs hovered in midair, glowing faintly like stars. Ethan looked around in awe. What is this place? Lyra whispered. These are the memories of every Valorian leader, stored and protected for eternity. Ethan walked among them, feeling like he was walking through the past. Each orb showed moments of history, wars, peace treaties, families, betrayals. Then one orb floated toward him and stopped at eye level. It glowed brighter as if recognizing him. He reached out and touched it. The room vanished, and he found himself standing inside a vision. Lyra's father appeared before him, tall, calm, and full of warmth. If you're seeing this, human, the image said, then the core has accepted you. The galaxy is dying, consumed by greed and fear. The Valorians lost their way, but you can remind them what it means to feel. Ethan tried to speak, but the vision continued. My daughter will guide you, protect her, for she carries the light of two races. Together, you can restore the balance. The image faded, and Ethan was back in the chamber. Breathing hard, Lyra's eyes were wide. You saw him? She asked. Ethan nodded slowly. He knew this would happen. She stepped closer, her voice soft. Then maybe destiny isn't just a story. He smiled faintly. I never believed in destiny, but right now, I don't have a better explanation. Before they could say more, the orbs began flickering violently. A voice echoed through the chamber. Rian's voice. You can hide in your ghosts, cousin, but I control the living. The chamber's walls trembled, cracks forming across the crystal. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. We need to go. The orbs shattered one by one, releasing streams of light that swirled around them. A few merged into the pendant on Ethan's chest. Glowing fiercely, Lyra gasped, The memories, they're bonding with you! Energy surged through his body, filling his mind with flashes of knowledge, maps, codes, weapons, ancient languages. He stumbled but didn't fall. I can see everything, he whispered. I know how this place works. Lyra stared in awe. Then use it, she said. Use it to save us. Ethan nodded, steadying himself. Let's finish what your father started. As they left the chamber, the palace's old systems came alive again, glowing blue instead of red. Machines that hadn't moved in centuries started to hum softly. The energy in the air changed. It felt like hope waking up. But far above, in the burning sky, Rian watched from his ship with a cold smile. "Let him awaken the palace," he said. "I will take it from his hands once he's done." Ethan and Lyra didn't know it yet. But the Chamber of Secrets had done more than reveal history. It had chosen its next protectors, and the war for the Valorian legacy was about to begin. The palace lights glowed a soft blue as the ancient systems awakened. The hum of hidden machines filled the air, and the once dead halls of Valorian pulsed with life again. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, watching as holographic veins of light spread through the walls like flowing blood. The palace was alive, responding to Ethan's energy. Lyra turned toward him, her eyes shining with wonder and fear. "You did this, Ethan. My father's home breathes again because of you." Ethan shook his head. "I only fixed what was broken." Like always, he smiled faintly. "But I think this time, the repair might be bigger than I expected." Suddenly, the sound of heavy boots echoed through the corridors. Dozens of armored figures entered, their armor gleaming silver with gold markings. These were not enemies. They were Valorian royal guards bearing the symbol of the council. The lead officer bowed deeply. "Lady Lyra, Heir Ethan, the council demands your presence." Ethan looked at Lyra suspiciously. "Council? I thought they turned against your father." Lyra's face tightened. "They did, but maybe they're trying to fix that mistake." The guards escorted them through the long halls to the council chamber, a huge circular room filled with floating thrones. Each throne carried a Valorian elder wrapped in shimmering robes. Their eyes glowed in different colors. Marking their ranks, the air felt cold and tense. The oldest among them, with eyes of molten gold, spoke. "So? The core has awakened," his voice echoed like thunder. "And the human is the vessel," Ethan frowned. "Vessel? I'm not some container. I didn't ask for this power." The elder ignored his words, turning to Lyra. "Daughter of Vareth, you have broken sacred laws by bonding with an alien. Your bloodline is tainted." Lyra's voice trembled. "I followed my father's will," the elder snapped. "Your father's will led to chaos." "His actions cost us centuries of peace," another elder hissed. "And now you bring this human, this outsider, to our sacred core." Ethan clenched his fists. "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came because your people sent for me. Someone told me I inherited this place." The golden-eyed elder raised his hand, silencing the room. "That someone was your enemy." "Human," he said coldly. "Rian sent that message." "He wanted you here." Ethan froze. "Rian? Lyra's cousin." The elder nodded slowly. "Yes, he knew your human heart would awaken the core. He planned to strike when you did." Lyra looked shocked. "But why would he want that?" The elder leaned forward. "Because when the core is awakened, it releases its energy to the bondholder, and whoever kills that bondholder gains it all." A chill ran through Ethan's spine. "So he wanted me alive, only until I turned this thing on, before they could react." A sudden explosion tore through the chamber wall. Guards screamed as fire and smoke filled the air. Ethan shielded Lyra as a familiar voice echoed through the chaos. Right on time, Rian stepped through the smoke, his armor dark as the void, flanked by soldiers of the Vorn Dominion. "Thank you, cousin," he said mockingly. "You did exactly what I needed. The core is awake, and now it belongs to me." Lyra shouted, "You betrayed your own blood." Rian sneered. "Blood means nothing when power decides fate." He raised his hand, and his soldiers aimed their weapons at the council. The elders tried to fight back, but Rian was prepared. His armor absorbed their attacks and fired back with 10 times the force. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. "We have to move." They ducked behind the throne platform as plasma bolts burned through the air. One of the dying guards crawled toward Ethan, pressing a glowing cube into his hand. "The palace key. Don't let him take it." Ethan pocketed the cube and pulled Lyra toward the exit, but before they reached the door, Rian appeared in front of them, blocking their path. "Going somewhere, human?" he hissed. "You opened the core, but you'll never live to use it." Ethan stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "You think power makes you strong? It just makes you hollow." Rian smirked. "Then let's see what fills you." "Earthling!" He lunged, their energies clashing. Sparks and light filled the hall. Ethan's pendant glowed wildly, pushing back Rian's dark energy for a moment. Lyra screamed as their power waves collided, shaking the entire palace. Ethan was thrown against a wall, his chest burning. Rian raised his blade to strike, but Lyra's eyes flared with violet fire. She unleashed a blast of telekinetic force so strong that the floor cracked open beneath them. The entire chamber started collapsing. "Ethan, the key!" she shouted. "Use it!" Ethan gripped the glowing cube and pressed it into the floor's console. The palace walls shimmered, ancient defenses awakening. Blue energy shields rose from the ground, sealing off the invaders. Rian growled as the shield cut him off, his voice echoing through the energy field. "You can't run forever, Lyra. The galaxy will burn for this." The shield solidified, trapping Rian and his men outside. Ethan and Lyra stood among the flickering lights. Breathing heavily, the council was gone. The palace damaged, and outside, enemy ships filled the sky. Lyra fell to her knees, her voice shaking. "Everything is gone." Ethan knelt beside her. "Not everything," he said softly. "You're still here. And so am I." She looked up at him, tears glowing on her silver cheeks. "Why do you care so much, Ethan?" "You could have run." He smiled weakly. "Because that's not what humans do. We fix things, remember?" She reached out, placing her hand over his heart. "Then help me fix my world." Ethan nodded slowly. "We will, but next time we fight on our terms. Above them." Thunder rolled across the alien sky as the palace shields flickered between blue and red. The war had begun, and the galaxy was watching. The sky above Valorian burned red. Dozens of warships circled the palace, their engines howling like storms. The ground quaked as Rian's forces unleashed a rain of plasma fire. The shields of the palace flickered under the assault, struggling to hold inside the shattered halls. Ethan Cole stood beside Lyra, smoke and sparks surrounding them. The once beautiful palace now looked like a battlefield. "They'll break through soon," Lyra said, her voice shaking. Ethan looked at the glowing cube in his hand, the palace key, the last thing the dying guard had given him. "Not if I can help it," he said, determination in his voice. He ran toward the control core room, passing through corridors filled with flickering holograms. Machines hummed as he approached, but most of them were damaged or silent. Lyra followed him closely. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Buying us time," he replied, his eyes scanning the alien consoles. "If this place can think, then I can talk to it." He placed the cube into the center console, and blue energy rushed up the walls, filling the room with light. A soft voice echoed. "Valorian Palace, reactivation sequence accepted. Identify command source." Ethan stepped forward. "Ethan Cole of Earth, bonded to Lyra Valorian." The voice paused for a moment, then replied. "Human access confirmed. Emotional link detected." Lyra's eyes widened. "It accepted you." Ethan smiled faintly. "Good, because we're going to need all the help we can get." Outside, explosions thundered as enemy ships fired at the shields. Ethan's hands flew across the console. "If I can connect the core to the palace defense grid, maybe I can make it stronger," Lyra warned. "That system hasn't worked for centuries." Ethan grinned. "Then let's wake it up." He linked the pendant's energy to the cube. Light flared around them, and the whole palace trembled deep below. Ancient machines began to move again. Massive cannons rising from the gardens, glowing blue crystals charging with power. The shields thickened, pulsing with new energy. Rian's voice came through the comlink, full of fury. "What have you done, human?" Ethan replied calmly. "Just fixing your family problem." Then the palace fired. Blue beams shot into the sky, hitting the enemy ships one after another, explosions lighting the clouds like fireworks. Lyra watched in awe. "You're controlling the palace like it's alive." Ethan nodded, sweat on his brow. "It is alive. It's responding to my emotions. It's feeling what I feel." The voice of the palace echoed softly. "Human will," synchronized. Then everything went quiet for a moment. The air felt heavy, and Ethan suddenly fell to one knee, the energy overwhelming him. Lyra rushed to his side. "Ethan, stop, it's draining you." He looked up weakly. "If I stop now, we lose everything." She gripped his hand. "Then we'll do it together." She placed her palm over his, letting her own energy flow through. Their combined power spread across the palace. Blue light replaced the red glow of destruction, and the trembling stopped. Outside, the defenders, Valorian guards, once loyal only to the council, now turned their weapons on Rian's soldiers. Seeing Ethan and Lyra standing together like ancient legends, the sight of a human fighting beside a Valorian heir, awakened something long forgotten in their hearts. Rian snarled as he watched from his command ship. Fools. They think an Earthling can lead them? His advisor whispered nervously. They're rallying behind him, my lord, even your own men. Rian slammed his fist against the console. Then I'll crush them myself. His ship descended through the smoke. Engines roaring, it landed on the palace courtyard. And Rian stepped out in his black armor, energy pulsing through his veins. Ethan Cole, he shouted. Come face me, human, and show me the strength you think you have. Ethan stepped out from the palace doors, the blue aura still flickering around him. His face was covered in ash and light, but his eyes burned bright. You want to fight? You got one, Rian charged first. His blade made of pure dark energy, Ethan dodged, using his instincts and reflexes. The palace seemed to react to his movements, walls shifting, floors hardening to protect him. The entire building was fighting with him. Lyra stood behind him, sending bursts of telekinetic energy whenever Rian got too close. He's feeding off the core, she shouted. We have to cut his link. Ethan gritted his teeth. Then let's pull the plug. He ran toward one of the power conduits, climbed up the side, and reached the glowing line that connected Rian's armor to the core chamber below. Lyra! Now, he shouted. She focused all her energy into one blast. Hitting the line with a scream, the connection broke, and Rian's armor flickered. He roared in anger, lunging toward Ethan. You think you can stop destiny? Ethan met his strike, his pendant glowing bright blue. I don't believe in destiny, he said. I believe in choice. Their weapons clashed, sending a shockwave through the entire palace. Light filled the courtyard as both were thrown apart. When the smoke cleared, Rian's armor was cracked. Sparks flying from its chest, he stumbled backward. Staring at Ethan in disbelief, Ethan stood tall, his voice calm. You had all the power in the galaxy, Rian, but you lost the one thing that mattered. And what's that? Rian hissed. Ethan's eyes hardened. Heart. Rian fell to his knees, his armor breaking apart. The palace lights dimmed slowly, returning to peace. The surviving soldiers lowered their weapons, watching silently. Lyra ran to Ethan and caught him as he collapsed. He was breathing heavily, his energy nearly gone. You did it, she whispered. Tears in her eyes, he smiled weakly. No, we did it. As dawn broke, the first light of 2 suns touched the palace towers. The blue shields shimmered softly and the sky began to clear. For the first time in centuries, Valorian was calm. Lyra looked out over the horizon, her voice quiet but full of hope. They'll remember this day, Ethan. The day a human stood against darkness and changed the fate of 2 worlds. Ethan took her hand gently. Then let's make sure it's only the beginning, far above. The last of Rian's ships fled into the stars, carrying the message of what had happened on Valorian, that a single human, armed only with courage and compassion, had risen to stand against empires, and for the first time, the galaxy began to whisper a new name with awe and respect, the human heir. The first light of Valorian's twin suns rose over the palace ruins, their soft gold and silver rays cutting through the smoke. The battle was over, the warships had fled, and silence, real silence, returned for the first time in years. Ethan stood on the palace balcony, his body weak but his heart steady below him. The fields of shattered crystal still glowed faintly blue. The pulse of the core now calm. He could feel it breathing through the air. Like a living spirit watching over them, Lyra walked up beside him, her silver hair catching the sunrise. She looked at the horizon and whispered, It's beautiful again. My father always said Valorian would shine when peace returned. Ethan smiled faintly. Then maybe he knew this day was coming. She turned to him, her violet eyes glowing softly. You made it come, Ethan. You saved us. He shook his head. No, Lyra, we saved it. Your strength, your courage, your faith in me. That's what kept me going. For a long moment, they just stood there watching the light rise. A gentle wind carried the sound of rebuilding, machines humming, people cheering, children laughing. The alien guards who once doubted him now bowed respectfully when they passed. The word had spread through every star system. The human heir had restored the core. Inside the palace, the remaining council members had gathered. The golden-eyed elder who once condemned Lyra now stood before them. Weary but humbled. Valorian owes its survival to an earthling, he said softly, and to the daughter we once called unworthy. Ethan entered the hall quietly. Dressed in simple dark armor, Lyra followed. Dressed in flowing silver robes that shimmered like moonlight, the elder bowed. You have united what we could not, Ethan replied gently. Unity doesn't need laws, it just needs trust. The elder raised his hand, and the chamber lights turned white. From this day forward, the bond between Earth and Valorian shall stand unbroken, he declared. Ethan Cole of Earth, you are hereby recognized as guardian of the core. Ethan didn't speak at first. He looked at Lyra and she gave him a small nod. He placed his hand over his heart. Then I accept, not as a ruler, but as someone who believes in fixing what's broken. Applause filled the chamber, soft but sincere. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel like an outsider. He felt like part of something greater. Later that evening, when the suns had set and the palace glowed with soft blue light, Lyra found Ethan sitting near the great fountain where energy water flowed like stars. She sat beside him, silent for a while before whispering, "You could go home now. The council would send you anywhere you wish." Ethan looked at the reflection of the twin moons in the water. "Earth doesn't need me right now," he said quietly. "But you do." She smiled faintly. "And if I said I wanted you to stay?" He turned toward her, his voice soft. "Then I'd never leave." The core pulsed gently in the distance, casting waves of light across the sky. It was as if the planet itself was listening. Lyra leaned closer, her hand brushing his. "When I first saw you," she said, "I feared you were wild, unpredictable. Human," she laughed lightly. "But now I know why my father chose you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Why's that?" She looked straight into his eyes. "Because only a human heart could make me believe again." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt charged, alive. Lyra touched his chest lightly where the pendant still glowed. "This belongs to you now," she whispered. "You are part of Valorian forever." Ethan took her hand in his voice quiet but firm. "Then Valorian is part of me too." The core's light spread brighter for a moment, as if responding to their bond, then softly, Lyra said the words that had haunted Ethan since his first day here. "Now I'm all yours," but this time, they weren't words of law or inheritance. They were words of choice. Words filled with emotion, warmth, and peace. Ethan smiled. "Then let's rebuild together." Days turned into weeks. The palace was restored, stronger than before. Humans from nearby colonies began arriving, helping the Valorians rebuild their world. Technology was shared, ideas exchanged, and new friendships formed for the first time. Alien hands and human hands worked side by side without fear. The core's power spread across the galaxy, healing broken worlds and restoring dying systems. It became known as the Heart of Two Worlds one evening. Lyra and Ethan stood once more on the same balcony where it had all begun. The stars stretched endlessly before them. "You know," Ethan said softly, "back on Earth, people used to look at the stars and wonder if someone out there cared about them." Lyra smiled gently. "And now someone does," he laughed quietly. "Guess I'm stuck being the example of human stubbornness," she teased. "And human love." They stood together as the twin moons rose. The glow from the core filled the sky. Wrapping them in warmth, Lyra whispered, "My people once believed emotion was weakness. But now I see it's strength, it connects everything." Ethan nodded. "That's what being human means. Feeling is what makes us alive." As they looked out into the galaxy, the lights of new ships, half human, half Valorian, rose into orbit, bearing the united crest of both worlds. The message was clear. The galaxy had changed forever. Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder and whispered once more, "Now I am all yours." And as the core pulsed in harmony with their hearts, Ethan realized something deeper. He hadn't just inherited a world or a wife. He had inherited a future, a legacy of hope, love, and humanity that would echo across the stars.